on Dubzone, City toppled in chaotic semi-final as the Mariners pull off an all-time upset. Victory does it easy against the Reds to set up a mouth-watering grand final, and we'll hear from both sides ahead of the big dance on Sunday. Hello and welcome to Dubzone. I'm Amy Duggan, joined by A-League's commentator Teo Pellizzeri and two-time Ninja A-League champion Teresa Polias. What a weekend it was. Passion, pressure, pure football chaos at the end of it there. What were the moments that stood out for you, T?
Well, for me, it has to be Izzy Gomez' controversial goal in the Mariners' monumental win, which I'm sure we'll dissect in detail.
Some of the moments that led to it as well are going to be remembered for years to come. You couldn't have asked for a more dramatic weekend that, you know, I think, agree or disagree, we will be talking about for a very long time.
Well, heroes are certainly made at this time of year and hearts are definitely broken. Let's take a look at the moment the Mariners booked their spot in the final.
So the 120 is up, but there's going to be 3 additional minutes. City looking for one chance. At the edge of the box, a shallow back pass and cleared away by Lakeman. Heart rates through the roof for the Mariners. It is slammed down the other end. Gomez, was she onside? The Mariners are going to the grand final, and Izzy Gomez is their hero.
A 121st minute heartbreaker with Izzy Gomez, the player of the moment there, the difference maker and the separator. We are joined now by Mariners defender Taylor Ray to talk all things semi-final 1 and have a look ahead at the grand final this weekend. Welcome, Taylor. Great to have you with us on the show. Tell me about the moment that goal was scored, the celebrations. You must have run 50 metres to celebrate.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for having me on board, guys, today. Really excited to be here. And honestly, I'm still a bit speechless, which is hard for me because, you know, it was such a tough game from both sides. Melbourne City, you know, being premiers, they've held out. They went no game being defeated. And we fortunately had many draws with them. So coming down, it was such a tough battle. And yeah, that last minute goal, honestly, was the seal for us to go into the grand final. And I'm just stoked to be a part of it.
Well, Taylor, I was devastated when you left Sydney, but it's been a great move for your career. It's back on track. Tell us how you're finding life on the coast.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Obviously, T, it's been great to, you know, be under you at Sydney FC for so long. You're a very big role model for me, but moving to the coast for my development has been exceptional. Like, I've learned so much from Em. She's an amazing coach in person, and a different group of girls has really provided a big insight into my development, and I'm loving every bit of it and really grateful to be here.
And Taylor, how have you played? Have you found playing a new role at centre back?
Yeah, it's been a big shift, and I think a lot of people who know me, I'm always going to put the team first, and that's like that responsibility I took on, and Em and I had conversations about it, and you know, I was the best fit for the position, and I'm more than happy to do that for our team. And to be honest, I think coming from a 6 to a centre back, I've adjusted really well. Obviously can't go forward as much, but being disciplined in that 6 role has really just been great to go into the centre back. Might be the smallest centre back in the league, however, people know I can jump high, and I've actually really enjoyed playing alongside Jess Nash and now Taryn, who's come back.
And a question on the game specifically after that red card decision. Did you expect City to sit off like they did?
Honestly, like, there was like a 50-50 chance they were going to sit off, but knowing their game style as Melbourne City, you know, they're the team that's held possession throughout every single game, even against us. So it was kind of like a change of scenery. We were the team in possession, controlling the game, taking it to them. And like, what else do they do in that situation? Like, they had to change their probably entire game plan. But like, for us, it's like, we don't change ours. We just keep going full throttle. And we just kept that pressure relentless throughout that entire game.
Taylor, you say you didn't change your game style, but there were substitutions and you also made a positional change going out to right back. Were you hoping maybe you might get moved into the midfield and return to a familiar environment? Or I know every player wants to be out on the pitch and play whatever role they're given, but how did you see some of the switches, particularly Taryn coming on, yourself to right back and also Quilligan coming into midfield?
Yeah, I think obviously, like, when it goes into extra time and you're trying to prepare best you can for that. Like, I was more than happy going right back. Like, I've had a bit of experience being like the left side of a 3 as the left centre back. And for me, I think I have that like readiness and like game awareness to be able to play any position on the park. But bringing Tess in just gave us composure, allowed for like players like Izzy to go more forward and Bianca. And near the back end of a game, you want your attacking threat to be at their best ability, where they're not defending, they're going to give it their all up top. But no, I think we handled it and adapted. We had great depth in our squad to bring onto the park, and we utilised that.
I want to take the conversation back to when Ash Irwin got injured in December. So is it something that Em Husband came to you straight away and said, we're going to look at you at centre-back? We saw Bianca Galich tried there for a couple of games, I think the Adelaide game in Woy Woy in particular. So how did this evolve? Is it something that you even put your hand up for? Who initiated the conversation and how did you prepare for it in training before actually deploying it in a game?
Yeah, I think when Ash went down at Perth, like Bianca and I having that discussion actually right there on the field. And at that point, I just said to Em, like, look, I'm a more defensive player. We want Bianca to be higher on the field. Like, I can take on that responsibility. So we gave it a go then, but then we wanted to keep me as a 6 to show that like discipline and like stay in front of like their attacking 9. So we put Bianca back there, and then like it got to a point where Em said, look, you actually did great at centre back. I want to keep you there. And I was more than happy to do that for her. And then we started doing that at training. I was still training as a midfielder and a centre back to get used to both roles. And I started like working really well with Jess Nash, and we had a great centre back pairing. Communication was there. And from that point, like Em just said, look, I know you're not a defensive player. You're not a centre back, you're a 6. However, like, how do you feel? Like, she came to me first. She was like, if you don't want to play there, I'm not going to put you there, but you have been doing phenomenal. And I just raised my hand and I said, like, look, I want to win. I want to win the grand final. I want to get us 2 finals. I'm going to put the team first. And that's what we've done. And it's kind of just been like my second position. And honestly, now I just feel like I'm a centre back at this point.
I wanted to ask about the last 12 months because it's a year and 2 weeks since last season's grand final. We saw the footage there before of you getting subbed on in the grand final. You were on the pitch when Sydney scored the match-winning goal. Gee, it feels like a lot longer ago, though, especially given the journey this Mariners team has been on. I mean, in the off-season, Ergamal, Roller Badawir, Kaya Simon, a host of players left the Mariners, and you were one of the big names that came in to say, no, the boat is still on the water. This team is still going to contend. How have you seen the journey and the evolution of this Mariners team, given you've come from the height of winning a grand final, but you've had to start again at a new club in a new environment and be part of a new journey with so many new faces joining you at the same time?
Yeah, honestly, it's a lot of emotions because like just watching us lift the trophy last year with Sydney FC, like that was my home for so long. And, you know, I had so many achievements there. And to be honest, like me coming from Townsville, a smaller community, I felt like Mariners could be a really great home to go into. And since I've been here, it's like now I want to bring everything I've achieved and do it with like a new club because they have the potential to grow. And last season, Em and the girls did like amazing. And of course, I was with Sydney at that time where we knocked them out, but they had so much potential and they were an underdog team. So coming into this season now with, you know, some new faces and stuff, like it's such a great culture here. The girls, I knew quite a lot of them. So it was a very easy transition for me personally. And believed in me, and so did all the girls. So to be honest, I think it was the smoothest transition for me from Sydney to Mariners. And now it's just like the community, fans, everyone at the club has been so supportive to me. And I just want to give back to them. So yeah, I'm really excited to go into, I guess, another grand final with a new team and see if we can create history.
Yeah, it looks like you've made the right decision, Taylor. 3 ACLs, 7 seasons at Sydney, 3 championships with them, and now you've got the Mariners, or helped get the Mariners into their first ever grand final. 121 minutes. You must have been sitting on the edge of your seat thinking, we're going to penalties, and then Izzy pulls out this remarkable goal. It was a beautiful finish, regardless of the circumstances. Tell us about the celebration, and then maybe tell us what this week is going to look like.
Yeah, no, wow. Like, honestly, that moment, you're sitting on the edge of your seat. Sometimes it's better to be on the field than off the field because the stress levels were just insane. But, like, we all knew that once that goal went in, it's like, that's game over. And you're already looking forward to the grand final. So for us this week, like, honestly, nothing changes. We have our goals set. We want to achieve that. we're taking today like a bit more recovery for the girls because it was a lot of minutes played, but we're starting to prepare for a Melbourne Victory and what they have to offer, attacking, defensive wise, and what can we do to be the best team on the park. But Mariners have a lot of heart and we can't wait to go out there and show it this weekend.
And speaking of recovery, how is your ankle? Because it was a big moment in the elimination final when you went off. We all know your injury history and everyone gets nervous when you hit the ground and when you stay down, because we know that if you're fine, you get back up, you're quite tough. But how has the ankle been? Because it didn't appear to bother you in the slightest at the weekend, but has that also been a testament to how you've been able to recuperate and recover in between the weeks?
Yeah, to be honest, I got out of the boot last Wednesday. We tested it out the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So every day leading up into that game, we were trying to push the ankle a little bit more. And slowly but surely it got better. I think I was playing at probably like 80%. I've never had more strapping on my ankle ever in a game, but I'm glad that no one noticed that on the field. But this week for me, we'll just modify a few things and we're going to get me back even better for this weekend. But it has been a mental, stress, and physically we've had to push a few things. However, this is what football's about. These are the moments you push yourself for, and I'm going to do whatever I can to be on that field.
And it was heartwarming to see a cluster of Mariners fans making their way to the semi-final. I'm sure there will be more going to Amy Park. But you mentioned being from, Townsville, and is that going to be a long trip for many family members? What are the plans? And are the first texts after you won about grand final tickets and travel arrangements? Tell us what the week's going to look like in that respect.
Yeah, I think some of the people from the coast already organised like plane tickets. They're already meeting up at places before the game. So I think as many people we can get there is obviously just gonna, make us feel more at home as well, because our fans are everything to us. Like, they give us that extra bit of passion and motivation on the field. And I'm hoping my dad and my mum and stuff can make the flight up as well.
Can I concentrate on one of the imports that's been brought in, Taylor, to the squad this year? Obviously, Jade Pennick is there, but also Nunn. And now she has been super physical and was probably a little bit cheeky after the game on the weekend. But I want to talk about what she's brought to the squad, and I want to talk about her character.
Yeah, Brooke is an interesting one. She brings a lot of good energy. She's a goofy individual as well, but she's also got that fiery side. She's such a kind-hearted person, but on the field, she knows how to be professional, but she's also mentally strong, where she is going to be a little bit cheeky to players, and how she handles that in a way is really street smart, because how they react, obviously that could help us. Getting that red card meant they went down to 10 men, and that changes the entire context of the game. Little things like that actually play a big role in those big situations. But she's a class player, technically great with her feet. She drives, she can shoot, she can score, and we've seen that throughout the season. And I'm just actually really excited for her to express herself more this weekend, because I know she has more to give than what we saw on the weekend, and that's just the beginning for her.
And Taylor, the big dance on the weekend, Melbourne Victory, they're very experienced in these games. What does the team feel about a team like that?
Yeah, we've had, we've played them 3 times this season already, and they've all been very close games in all regards. The last time we faced them, it was a really close matchup. We know they're really good on set pieces. We know they have great distribution, they can control the game quite well. But for us, we know our strengths and weaknesses, and we're going to stick to our game plan. But we know they're a great threat in behind. They got pace. Gielnik, technically great and strong. You have Rachel, who plays kind of as a false 9. So they have a lot of depth to their team, but so do we. So I think it's going to be a really great matchup.
There's going to be a lot of talk about corner kicks, set pieces, Victory's threat in the air. Who do you go and try to mark at a set piece then if you're in defence? Because you don't want to be near Morrison or Bunge or Gielnik because something's gone wrong. But who are you going to put your target on in order to try and mark them out of the game at a dead ball situation?
Yeah, I know. When they have so much attacking threat in the air, it can be really difficult who you match up with. I know Em likes to put me up against one of the tallest players, so the shortest and tallest, which is quite funny. But we have some great people in the air as well. You have Raz, who's obviously got that height, who can jump. So she's definitely one of our key players, we get to mark some of those bigger ones. But to be honest, we got some great aerial threat too. So it's still like a good matchup in that regards as well. And I think at the end of the day, whoever wants it more shows that on the park.
Well, Taylor, it's been great to have a chat to you and get a bit of an insight into the year that's been and this tidal wave of momentum for the Mariners. We wish you all the best on Sunday, and thanks for your time on Dubzone today.
Thank you so much, guys. Take care.
Yes, Central Coast Mariners, Taylor Ray there giving us a bit of an insight. Of course, there were two teams on the paddock on the weekend, Melbourne City, and probably not the Melbourne City that we're used to seeing, guys.
No, it was fascinating stuff. It was almost like seeing, everything that could go wrong and like, witchcraft being played out or something. It just was fascinating. But for me, City seemed overly pumped. There's an optimal level, and I think some of the things that happened out there just showed maybe they were either there was too much pressure on them, or they were overly pumped for that match.
So at this point, Holly McNamara's already gone off injured, but this is the moment that really conditioned the game. 25th minute, Bosch reacts to Nunn, gets sent off, the red card's out of the pocket straight away. What precipitated this, Teresa? It seemed like such an overreaction to a fairly regulation scuffle, trying to, win a throw, win the ball, and then all of a sudden, it's 11 versus 10.
Yeah, and this is one of the points I make, that they were just overly pumped and I guess frustrated seeing, their key player go off as well. But, yeah, for such a small incident over a throw-in to result in that event and a red card, it just showed, I think the pressure was really on.
Now, the game was delayed for almost 7 minutes after this knock because Sarah Langman had to receive treatment. She passed her initial tests with the medical staff. Holly McNamara, though, went into concussion protocol. It's since been reported that she also has a broken nose.
Wow.
So she would have been out of the grand final. It must have been devastating. The players would have had a reasonable understanding too.
Yeah.
Even if we win, those two are out for the grand final. Subconsciously, at some level, do you think that affected how they played the rest of the game?
I most certainly did, but I was also surprised when Bosch got the red card. That City was they sat so deep, and we don't normally see that from them. I would have thought they would have gone to a back three, pushed Apostolakis or Rostbacken on and take the game to the Mariners. But perhaps that shows insight into their mental state that, they held off, they sat deep, and I was really surprised by that.
It's a 24 game run that they were on. There's a little bit of pressure from that, pressure to get into the grand final, but the competitive spirit was definitely really high during this game. And I think you're right. This is a Melbourne City team we're used to controlling possession, taking it easy, being really patient. And after the red card and after Holly Mack went off, that seemed to go out the window for them.
Yeah, and it's been a bit of a hoodoo getting to past that final hurdle. They're able to win premierships and seem to, of recent years, fall over at the last hurdle in the grand final. So that pressure was there. The pressure of having gone unbeaten those 23 rounds as well, and semis too. And, I think, it was just a little too much to handle.
Do we need to throw it in the mix, though, that maybe one of the reasons Melbourne City, I think, started playing to get to penalties and playing to minimise risk, and ultimately I think Vlanic running into Taylor Otto in that final defensive phase exacerbates, the Izzy Gomez procession through on goal. But is it a case here that Melbourne City weren't willing to take the risks and dare because Central Coast set up in a way that kept them honest? I mean, I'm amazed that Central Coast were full of praise for how Melbourne City defended, people saying City so brave with 10, but against most teams in this league, in fact, I would suggest against every team in this league other than maybe the Victory, they would have played exactly the same as they have through the home and away season and allowed a risk for a gap at the back. And the reason they didn't take those risks is actually due to how the Mariners set up.
Yeah, but look, Tay, it was one player. I don't think one player really changes. They have so much quality out there. I think City played into the hands of the Mariners. In what game have you seen any team dominate possession the way the Mariners did? It's just that's because City sat off and let them have the ball. Yeah, exactly. My point. Why? They didn't need to do that.
Even Matricciani after the game said the reason he left Rihanna Pollicina as an unused sub is because he was going to let the Mariners be the ball-dominant team.
Yeah, they made that choice, and I don't think it was the right one for City.
I thought it was a confusing choice.
And that's what I'm very confused about, because they had so much quality still out there. Briley Henry was working so hard out there, still created things. If they had just pushed a defender up, it would have almost been like the way the game started. They were taking the game to the Mariners. So I think they really played into the hands of the Mariners.
Well, that moment might have been confusing, but there was another moment that was confusing and full of controversy and will no doubt be talked about for years to come. We're talking about the Izzy Gomez difference maker in the 121st minute, and the calls here that she was well and truly offside. You guys were at the game, you were calling the game. Did it look cut and clear to you?
Yeah, I think the angle made it look a lot further offside. But let's talk about the City players too. They actually bumped into each other here. Tyler Vlanic bumping into Otto there. So there was a bit of confusion there. But yeah, ultimately, you know, a big call like that decided the game.
And it's 2 seconds after a shallow back pass at the other end. And Sarah Langman has to put her foot through the ball to clear because they nearly gifted Melbourne City a chance themselves. So I think you just call this peaked up chaos, don't you?
Yeah, it's not the first controversial call we've seen in a finals match.
Yeah. No, and, well, I mean, of all teams to be aggrieved about refereeing decisions, the Mariners would think back. Jada Wyman kicks Alex Chidiac in the final home and away round last year and gets a yellow. If she'd been sent off, she would have been suspended for the 2 legs of the semi-final. Who did they play? The Mariners. And Jada Wyman had the game of her life. The Mariners have not complained about that once. You know, they could potentially be going to grand finals 2 years in a row, and you don't hear them complaining about that.
Yeah, and look,
you know?
this is football. You get calls your way and against you, and the ones against you hurt, and you remember them for a lot longer. But, you know, at this time, it went the Mariners' way. Unfortunately, it went against City, and, yeah, it's decided the game. But that's the beauty of football, isn't it?
And the other golden rule of football? Play the whistle.
Play the whistle too.
Play the whistle. It does bring up a little bit of a moment, though, for VAR, because no one wants VAR until they need it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go without it in the A-League Women's. If the league's at a point where this semi-final is being played at Amy Park, if we can guarantee that we're in the top-tier stadiums for every finals match, maybe just for finals. I mean, we see it in...
I'm all for it.
We've seen it in AFC competitions. I mean, the young Socceroos won the Under-20 Asian Cup. No VAR in the group stage or even the quarterfinals. It only started at the semis and the finals. So if there's a way to bring it in at a later stage, but you have to play it at the right venues to have it.
And look, I'm all for it for finals in do-or-die matches. Let's not forget, referees are humans too. They fatigue in matches, as do players, where decision-making goes out the window. Fatigue obviously sets in. So, yeah, I think it's a great discussion to have about implementing it in finals.
And Australia is a world leader in having women VAR officials. We see it in the A-League men's. There's a woman in the VAR booth every round of the season, so for multiple games.
Yeah, I wonder what Michael Matricciani thinks of that. Let's hear from him post-match now.
Over the 120 minutes, I still felt we were the better side. I felt we were fitter, we were stronger. We probably had better chances, to be fair, especially with Briley Henry in the first half having a one-on-one, which we didn't quite capitalise. And obviously this is football. We have to learn from our moments, especially Lourdes. She definitely needs to learn. She's let our team down here. But in that, the girls showed enormous grit. So very disappointing, but super proud. This is going to hurt for a while, but we can refocus and make sure we get ready. And to be fair, to sort of get an extra 3, 4, 5 days probably now to prepare for the Red Angels come the following Wednesday.
Yeah, big game coming up. That's Michael Matricciani after his side's loss on the weekend and ultimately ending their season. Is it too raw yet to give a wrap on what you think of Melbourne City's season?
Obviously, still a amazingly historic season for them. So many positives to go on and to continue to, create history next season. And obviously, they've got something big coming up as well in the Asian Champions League. If
they win the Champions League, this season will be an unqualified success. And losing the semi-final the way they did, I think will pale into insignificance of both the prestige and the prize money that they end up with. However, if they don't succeed in the Champions League, they will look back and think, what if? The reality is that Melbourne Victory pushed them right to the line. People can suggest, should they have lost a game earlier? Well, if they'd lost a game earlier, they would have finished second. Right. So at least they still ended up with one of the big prizes. And let's not forget, full home and away plus Unite round. And I think that's a hugely credible and trophy to be proud of. And I thought Michael Matricciani spoke incredibly well. With that said, media's only one stakeholder. All the media is so impressed with how he spoke, but often coaches use the media to send a message to their players, to send a message to the club, or to send a message to an external party. So we as an external party, the media, think hugely impressive, but the real proof will be did he send the right messages to his players and to his supporters? Because I couldn't have been more impressed by how he spoke. But really, we're only one stakeholder of many when a coach speaks to the media.
Yeah, he really gave us great insights pre and post-match there, and I think he was totally honest, which was great. And, Melbourne City will be hurting for a long time, but I think, what better way to dust themselves off than looking forward to the Asian Champions League.
Yeah, still lots to look forward to, and of course the premiership under their belt as well. All right, let's find out what's cooking on socials with Narlene Masto. Thanks to Ninja.
I'm Narlene Masto with what's cooking on socials and in the world of women's football. Brought to you by the Ninja Woodfire Outdoor Oven, which can turn any space into an outdoor kitchen. Barcelona have won their 6th straight Liga F title with a game to spare after thumping Real Betis 9-0. Having already won the Supercopa, the Spanish Giants will now turn their attention to the Women's Champions League final, where they will face Arsenal in a bid to win their 4th European title. Now, there are some major changes to the FIFA Women's World Cup structure that will come into play at the 2031 tournament. The number of competing teams will be expanded from 32 to 48, with 12 groups of 4 playing over 100 matches during the tournament. The decision has been made to accommodate for the growing competitiveness and investment in women's football. And finally, the PFA have named Western United's Ironbark Fields and Sydney FC's Leichhardt Oval the winners for the best stadiums this Ninja A-League season. The vote was conducted amongst the players, with Western's home ground receiving a lot of love for the pitch quality, while Leichhardt stood out for its best atmosphere. Now it's time to head back to your Dubzone crew for more analysis.
Well, thank you, Narlene, and that sounds like a great segue into our other second semi-final, which was between Melbourne Victory and Adelaide United. Let's take a look.
It's the second leg of the semi-final. It's Melbourne Victory against Adelaide United. The fate of finals football for these teams will soon be known. Janchevski to take, Janchevski to hit. It's a wonderful save from Jenkins. A follow-up from Rachel Lowe makes no mistake. Celebrations ensue. Flannery's first time cutback is clever. Nikki Flannery now to Apollonia. The strike. The finish is even better. Well, that'll be that for Melbourne Victory. Murphy, a willing runner. Low is centre. The first time ball is good. The finish is excellent. Oh, that's fantastic stuff from Melbourne Victory. And what an impact. One last long hopeful ball is good as well. And it does tumble into the back of the net. It's a consolation goal for Adelaide United. And Melbourne Victory march onto the final showdown for the 5th time in their competition history.
And with that 3-1 victory over Adelaide United, Melbourne Victory runs towards the grand final, where they'll take on, of course, the Central Coast Mariners. A player who'll be big and up for that game is Melbourne Victory striker Emily Gielnik, and she joins us now on Dubzone. Morning, Em.
Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, we're great. Look, that one looked a lot easier probably than it felt, but your first grand final for you since 2014.
I know. I can't believe it's been that long. I think the last time I played with Melbourne Victory 5 or 6 years ago, we were minor premiers, but we missed out on the grand final. So, yeah, it's been a while, but it's, for me, it's no surprise. I knew we'd get there, so here we are.
The team must have enjoyed the drama and the entertainment that played out in Sunday's match. Did you all watch it together?
Yeah, we were kind of all over the place, actually. We did get together previously the week prior, but this game we watched it a bit scattered because it was Mother's Day. But yeah, I mean, controversial to say the least, isn't it? It would have been tougher for you guys not to commentate on it. It was hard to watch, I'm not going to lie, but it's everything you kind of wanted in a semi-final decider, wasn't it? And it's the perfect storm. It's happened to me before when I played for Brisbane. You have an impeccable season and then you miss out when it really counts, and that's what happened to City. And it was an unfortunate ending. It was a very interesting game. But yeah, I'm happy for Central Coast, and it gives us a new challenge because they've always been a tough team. It would have been nice to have a Melbourne derby, but we didn't really care who it was, to be honest, as long as we were there ourselves. So back to the drawing board, but definitely entertaining to say the least.
I'm going to ask you straight out, is Courtney Newbon the best goalkeeper in the Ninja A-League?
I mean, absolutely. I'm biased, aren't I? I think she's been outstanding for us this season. She's just been such a good distributor. She's come up big for us week in, week out. She's had an incredible stats with her clean sheets and like in this preview here, just making saves when we need her the most. She stands her ground. She's been an awesome teammate, and she's growing in confidence. So yeah, I'm really pleased for her this season. I think this is a season that she's needed to have and she's been longing to have, and she deserves all the credit that she gets. Everyone knows a good team starts by having, the backbone, which is a good goalkeeper, and she's that for us.
And you mentioned her distribution there, her long ball threat in particular. That's what
Yep.
assisted you in that first leg of the semi-final.
Yep.
Is that something the team's spoken about tactically to implement in games?
Yeah, definitely. We've had it kind of in our back pocket throughout this season, whether it's for hold-up play or we're playing in behind. And I think, the way Adelaide played, it kind of gave us that opportunity. They were a little bit unorganised and they were vulnerable at the back. And, their coach spoke about that. They were willing to be vulnerable at the back and outnumbered so they could have more attacking fire. And we kind of took advantage of that with her long kick, and she made a good decision in that point to play it long and to let it, and it went all the way through. She's got a rocket on her. She's probably pulled up a bit sore after that one. That was her biggest one yet, I think. But it paid dividends. Love to see it again. But yeah, her distribution has been really good. She's pretty pinpoint. She's got a big kick on her, and in final minutes of the game, when you need to get it up and out, it's the kind of goalkeeper you want on your team.
Emma, I wanted to ask about the forward line because Rachel Lowe has hit goal-scoring form seemingly at the perfect time of the season, and this is after she was in double figures last season, but they dried up during the home and away. What's changed? We've seen her playing as this pressing forward in the middle, yourself and Flannery on the wings. How has Jeff described the tactical setup, and how have you as players executed it?
Yeah, I think because our midfield is so strong, we kind of had to, we couldn't really leave Rachel out. She's too good of a player. So she kind of found herself in that 9 role, and I kind of shifted outside. And, she's not a natural number 9, and she's well aware of that. Her game style is very different to when I'm in there as opposed to when she's in there. So I think she's learned, and I think you see it with that second goal where she's come off the blindside shoulder and then made her run in. And that's what you want to do. And that's what you want your number 9 to do. So I think she's kind of just developed that, how to be that kind of natural 9 over the games, and better late than never. She's kind of come into full stride. She's been missing out on opportunities for the last few weeks, so she really deserved those 2 goals and player of the match. It's been coming for her, and I feel like it's kind of summed up our season. People have said we haven't played good all season. To be fair, majority of it is true, and maybe we have been a little bit lucky, but you make your own luck, and now we're starting to perform and we're putting goals away when it actually really counts, and that's in the final series. So I feel like us compared to City, we've come up in these last 2 games of the semi-final with confidence. We batted Adelaide twice, and they are a quality side. No disrespect to them at all. Like, they gave it a good hot crack, and they're not an easy team. And we came up big both times, so we're feeling pretty good going forward. But our front line's extremely versatile. You even get Sarah D'Apollonia. She's got the biggest engine I've ever seen. Sometimes she outruns me, and she comes over to my side and does my running in behind. So we've got threats everywhere. Rachel can also come back into the 10. I can also move into the 9s, and we've got Holly Furphy coming on and doing a great job. So we've got attacking weapons everywhere, and I think I'm just happy for Rachel. She's really finding her stride.
How do you assess your own form too? Because it's the big stage now and the pointy end of the season, so there'll be no shortage of desire. But how do you actually think you're tracking going into this grand final?
I think, we're extremely motivated. I think because of the doubt that we've had, for me personally, I'm motivated to win. I said from the very start I want to win this trophy. I think I maybe lost a little bit of consistency when I had that Achilles tendinopathy. I started deloading in my minutes. I was training less, and now I feel like I'm getting back into it, which is really good. But that we're not short of confidence, and we're not short of motivation. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to score. And I think what's been really good is, and I'm not the only goal scorer. We've had so many players getting their name on the score sheet, so many different assisting players, and no one's afraid of the goal. So, for me, I'm looking to obviously have a good game and do whatever it takes to help my team win. I'm starting to find my form again. And, it's really difficult, I think, as a striker. There's always expectation and pressure to perform. And then you've got Matildas in the background, and there's all this noise. And the hardest thing for a striker to do is to stay in goal scoring form season in, season out. And you're going to have dips and you're going to have highs. And it's just about, trying to block out that noise, especially like a time right now. All I'm thinking about is the team and how I can help them win. So that's really my focus for this weekend.
Now, we saw some match footage in the final home and away round where you missed, but you had your arm around Ella O'Grady and you were doing a bit of mentoring to her. Now, she's come from Queensland to Melbourne, like you did in your journey, and this weekend she will be almost exactly the same age as you were when you scored in the 2012 Grand Final. Take us inside some of the conversations you're having now that your career is going full circle and you are quite literally seeing players who are walking the same footsteps that you did in your own career, obviously in a very different landscape and sort of broader footballing environment to the one that you came through in.
Yeah, funny you bring up my age. I'm actually 33 today, so it's a tough day at the office. And look, Ella is she's a beautiful girl. She reminds me a lot of myself. I actually said to her when she first came to the club, and not many people know this, I said, if you want to go far with football, you really can. I saw she has that little bit of something. She's very diligent. She's relentless. You can tell she's got that spark about her, and it's just about the application. She really wants to learn. So she reminds me a lot of me. And, she's had a tough run this season. You may have thought at time that she's been not getting as much game time as she would have liked to as she would have liked to have. She's not come on as much. She's missed out quite a bit, but I'll tell you what, she's gone about this season with her head held high, and she's a team player. And she's got a lot of integrity, and she's got a lot to look forward to. And when she has come on, she's come on big for us. So, I wrap my arm around her. I have since day one, and I keep reminding her of all the small things. It's about being a team player. It's about not just getting ready. It's about staying ready, because Ella, when your moment comes, you got to take it with two hands and embrace the opportunity. So, she is a Queenslander. She's a young girl. She wants to learn. She's great on the ball, and she's a tidy finisher. So I think she can go a long way. She just needs to believe in herself. And I've really enjoyed working with her this year.
I've got one more, and it is a stat. Happy birthday. But if you do score this weekend, you will be in the top 10 youngest and oldest scorers to have scored in a grand final. So personally, for your sake, I hope that happens. But how does it make you reflect on your own career and also just how far this league has come? Because back in the 2012 grand final, I believe that was a January grand final, and here we are in May. So big picture, as much as you want to lift the same trophy, it's a very different trophy to the one you were playing for back then.
Oh, it's very different. Like, hasn't the league come a long way? And, for a lot of the last 10 years, I've played overseas as well. Like, I haven't played every season here in the A-League. It is good to be back. It does feel very different. I'm a little bit gutted because although we're in the grand final, I still truly believe we could have had that minor premiership, and that still stings a little bit. And I know you shouldn't hold on to the past, but I really felt that going into the season that it was going to be us to get the double, and then narrowly missing out on Golden Boot. But look, it's silverware at the end of the day. And I can tell you right now, a lot of the girls are not only motivated to win this trophy for themselves, but we want to win the trophy for Jeff. It's not brought up enough of who we play for and why we play, but he's a big part of the reason. He brings out the best in everyone. He's one of the fairest guys I know. He's a great coach, and he deserves a little bit of silverware. He's been at the club for a long time, but nothing would make me happier this year than to top it off lifting that trophy. So, the league has come a long way, but I feel like we've got the team to do it.
Well, Jeff already has 4, so he's going for a 5th one, and that'd be a lovely present. And also, happy birthday to you. We'll let you go and celebrate the rest of the day. So many storylines to come out of this, including, Jeff Hopkins' coaching record, Yanchevsky and her amazing free kick ability, the aerial ability of your team, and Chid's relentless work in the centre of the park, I'm sure, which will all be on display on Sunday. But Em, happy birthday. Enjoy the rest of the day, and thanks for your time on Dubzone.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the grand final.
Yeah, we will. Sunday will certainly be a big one. Kick-off at 3:15. How about we hear from some post-match reaction from Jeff Hopkins and Adrian Stenter following that second leg of the semi-final.
A little bit numb at the moment because I'm just trying not to think about next week. It was all about today and the performance today. But, look, I think when I go home and put my feet up, probably cut the lawn in the morning and start to get excited about it.
Super proud because, last year couldn't have gone any worse. That takes its toll. It is difficult to, work your backside off day in, day out for not much, reward. So I think the biggest thing to come out of this year is I think it helps the players with their belief and their confidence and know that they are good enough. We fell a little bit short today against a quality opposition. But when we're at our best, we can definitely compete with the top one or two teams in this competition. So really proud of the group. They've worked super, super hard. They're really committed to making a difference this year and turning things around, and they've done that in spades. So I'm like a proud dad, watching their kids grow up and develop, and I've loved every minute of it.
Oh, what a lovely way to talk about your team. Adrian Stenter there, coach of Adelaide, from last year to semi-finalists this year. It's a remarkable turnaround, and you can understand why he feels the way he does about the belief, about the confidence, and about feeling like a proud dad.
Absolutely. It's been a phenomenal season for Adelaide, and, hopefully Adrian Stenter can retain most of his squad to continue the great work that they've done.
Inevitably, what comes next will be overseas interest. Erin Healy has been talked about as a potential Republic of Ireland international, and of course is an American, so has the world at her feet in terms of potentially more lucrative contracts. Lucia Leon was a revelation this season, but has definitely caught the eye of other teams. The one thing they will keep together, T, is the South Australian core. I imagine very few of the actual players that have grown up in Adelaide, even the ones that have come back from overseas from Adelaide, like Matilda McNamara, will play for any other team in the A-League Women's other than Adelaide. But the foreign player situation, I think that could make or break what happens next. It's very good that they've got themselves into a position to launch for more, but if they don't get the foreigners right next season, and let's not forget, Claudia Jenkins might have New Zealand caps to her name by the time next season kicks off, and that's going to put her in the shop window too. Yeah,
it's a tough one for coaches, but I think Adrian Stenter led the way when it comes to finding foreign players. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they did lose, their big two, that he'd find another two to replace them.
Well, as long as he can find a couple of quality players like he has now. Well, the trip and the season might be over for Adelaide, but Victory still has one big match to come, and that will be against the Central Coast Mariners on Sunday. Victory have won 2 of the 3 matchups against Central Coast this season. Will statistics play a part here, Teo?
Look, the Mariners haven't beaten Victory since coming back into the league. So in the old days, 08 and 09, the Mariners actually had the better of them. But this Annalise Rasmussen goal is a bit of a collector's item this season because the Mariners have not been able to break down this Victory defence otherwise.
Yeah, and there's another set piece that Victory, got one back there, of course.
Yeah, the two centre-backs.
They're working together again.
Now, that was Unite round on neutral territory, so a totally neutral game. This was home of the Matildas, and this game was intriguing because Gielnik opens the scoring, misses a penalty, and then makes up for it by Victory scoring at this corner.
Again.
Almost immediately. This is barely 2 minutes after Gielnik had missed the penalty, and you see there it's first half stoppage time, and they were able to manage the game very effectively through the second half.
And look, a very avoidable goal there, but it's that one in behind they'll be really looking at, I think, and here's another set piece.
This game was a bit more of a rock fight. So this was penultimate round of the season. Melbourne City had just beaten Newcastle earlier in the day, and Victory had to win that game to keep it alive going into the final round. The thing that strikes me is the Mariners' shots on target, chances created, the quality of chances, their XG, it's all low. They need something new because in 3 head-to-heads, they just have not found a way to break through Victory's midfield, never mind their defence, other than that one moment from Rasmussen.
Well, in that narrow loss that we just saw then, the only thing the Mariners did dominate was possession, which, the way you look at it, doesn't always mean
Victory
a lot.
might have given them the ball in that game and let them say, you create. We're going to back our defence and we're going to see if you can create against us, and the Mariners couldn't.
I do think during that time Mariners were in a bit of a dry patch, and I think they're a different team now, and I think their mentality is in a much better place coming into the grand final.
And there's a little bit more than just this season's history on the line, of course, because it was Central Coast that knocked out Victory last season, and that one even going to penalties.
Yeah, so, a 0-0 draw wire to wire, 120 minutes, Mariners win the tiebreaker. And Victory will be, Alana Murphy misses this penalty. Paige Zoyce, I wouldn't expect her to get onto the bench for the grand final, but she also had a penalty saved in this shootout. This was the penultimate penalty, and then Galich scores the decisive one. They'll be hurting from this. It was a former player, of course, a former championship winner, Casey Dumont, who came back to bite them. But it's a very different Mariners team last year to this year. Like we talked about with Taylor Ray, Galich is one of the few players that's come back, because in this match it was Ergamal, it was Badawir, it was Kaya Simon.
Team.
And you see some of the names and the faces there. You know, Courtney Newbon, obviously very disappointed after the shootout. She'll be back to try and make amends. But even Newbon started that season at the Mariners before going to Victory as an injury replacement. It really shows how good Em Husband has been at replenishing her team every step of the way.
Yeah, and it's interesting thinking if it went to penalties. You know, when you miss a penalty, it stays with you too. So, yeah, I'd fancy. I think the Mariners would fancy their chances if the game gets to that point.
It's interesting because the earliest game of the round, which was the 1-1 draw back in round 4, Izzy Gomez wasn't there, and in fact she was injured in the game for most of it. So she will be an impact maker in this game for sure.
Yeah, and I think she's even better now than she was pre-injury as well. She's taken her game to the next level. She's so sharp, and her ability to get forward when Quilligan came on changed things for the Mariners. So I'd be interested to see how they set up to start with.
Well, isn't it serendipitous that Gomez gets injured in that game against Victory, and since then the semi-final opponents Davidson and Hughes go on to win caps for the national team. The opponent this weekend, Alana Murphy, goes on to win a cap for the national team, and here's Izzy Gomez saying, what about me? I was in the Matildas and got injured by Ellie Wilson in Unite round, and she has come back. She's trying to win this championship. It's not just about the Matildas, it's also about just trying to win it. That passage of play right there, wasn't that reminiscent of the brilliant goal she scored against Brisbane Roar in the final weeks of the home and away season, where she both won the ball and burst into the attacking half?
And she did it a number of times in this game, and she put on a show out there, and, you know, guess who was watching? Tom Samani. So, you know, if that doesn't get his brain thinking about including her in the next camp, I mean, I don't know what will.
Playing in the yellow shirt and for a yellow shirt, it seems, as well. Let's talk about a couple of the key matchups. We've spoken to Taylor Ray, of course, the shortest defender in the league, self-proclaimed, and Emily Gielnik, one of the tallest attackers in the season as well. But they will potentially match up against each other in some of these set pieces. We've seen how dominant they can be in those set piece moments, especially attacking. What does Central Coast do to stop this?
Yeah, I mean, the matchups are key. They're going to have to get them right pre-game and make sure they're extremely organised and have the mentality to want to win every ball. And I think best way to go about it with matchups, I think Rasmussen has to match up with Gielnik.
The other thing is they need to avoid conceding set pieces and corners, because
too,
the quality of the delivery coming out of Alana Murphy, Alex Chidiak and Alana Janchevsky, you've got left foot and right-footed threats. Pretty much every point of the compass, Melbourne Victory is a dead ball threat in the attacking half of the pitch.
Both ends.
Because they've got so much variety.
So what are the Mariners must be thinking when we get a corner or a set piece? How are we going to, you know, get one over Victory? How can we mix things up? Do we go short? There's a lot to think about there.
There certainly is. And key matchups are left and right-hand side of the field. Are we likely to see some change in personnel? Perhaps someone like Annabelle Martin playing on the other side of the field to counter some of the attacking threat?
I think this could be dictated by who Holly Furphy comes on for and how Melbourne Victory use their wingers. Because in recent weeks we've seen Rachel Lowe play as the centre forward, pressing the goalkeeper, Em Gielnik on the right, and then Nikki Flannery on the left. Sometimes interchange. And then they've got Holly Furphy, who had the assist for Rachel Lowe's second goal and Victory's third at the weekend, coming off the bench, and her speed will be a real consideration. Let's not forget the Mariners lost Breanne Riley mid-season to an injury departure, and they brought in Sarah Rowe to cover for that. Now, we've discussed this previously, Teresa. We think that Rowe is better as a starter. They didn't have Leah Puxty on the bench last week, the Mariners. They've gone for Blake Hughes coming on as a sub last couple of weeks.
Coming on too,
And I think the combativeness of Annabelle Martin. Let's not forget, a player who was jettisoned by the Victory. She was there through their darkest times, through their wooden spoon seasons, and then when the Victory finally started to improve, Victory said, Annabelle, we don't want you to be part of this journey. Go and fend for yourself elsewhere. So if there's one player that is going to be determined to come back and prove a point, it's Mildura girl Annabelle Martin against one of her former teams.
And plenty of avenues for motivation for both sides going into the grand final. So
now, while our games are decided by attack and defence, the midfield is absolutely key here. And who holds the dominance here? It's so difficult with a player like Izzy Gomez, but also the centre, with Murphy, with Chidiac. Who holds the dominance here?
It's a question of style here. For me, the question is Krajula starting or Quilligan for the Mariners? Because we know Krajula, gets in for the dirty work and the physicality, but when Quilligan came on, she's a technician and controlled the tempo and got players involved going forward. So, and it gave obviously Gomez the ability to get forward as well. So, yeah, I'm really fascinated to see how Em Husband's going to start her midfield. We know what to expect from Victory, I think.
Are we at the point, stay with me on this, where Taylor Ray goes back into midfield because Taryn King can start in defence and the Mariners decide we don't want to use Taylor Ray as a centre-back, we want to use her as a midfielder? Because it was only Krajula's third start of the season in both legs of this semi-final, which, again, bold coaching.
Bold.
And
backing your players.
I mean, I cannot sing the praises of Tess Quilligan enough. This is a player who, frankly, at Sydney Uni, I did not see the vision, but Amy Shepherd, who was working for Sydney Uni at the time and is now an assistant coach at the Wellington Phoenix, said, we love her because she never gives away the ball.
Yes,
and ever since hearing that, I've totally looked at her differently as a player and just waited for the moment she misplaces the pass, and guess what, I'm still waiting. So it seems like this is a battle of contrasting midfields where Victory draw a lot of fouls. You've got the laconic Murphy, you've got the evasive Chidiac, and then you've got the really explosive Gomez.
Yeah.
And discipline for the Mariners will be huge because Chidiac draws a lot of fouls, and as we've seen, Victory very rarely foul. We spoke about it last week after the first leg in Adelaide. They commit very few fouls, and I don't think you could have more light and shade in terms of the midfield, but the reality is Victory's midfield has had the measure of this Mariners one in the head-to-head so far.
Your initial question, Taylor, was about Taylor Ray, and I do believe, given her injury, it's all about minutes. And I think she started over Taryn King because they were unsure how long she could actually go for. So, it's risky, and Taryn King's come back from a major injury too. So I think, we'll see things remain as they were. And I think,
Okay, so you wouldn't go King, or Nash, King, Rowe at right back, and then Ray into midfield and Krajula to the bench?
But Taylor hasn't played for so many weeks in the midfield. I think they're settled with her at the back, and really the decision's going to be about the minutes she has in her after her injury. And don't forget the big shift she put in on the weekend too for the whole team.
Well, it will all be decided on Sunday, of course. Let's take a look at how we got here along the way. The elimination finals, the two semi-finals. And just for those that aren't familiar with the aggregate, it's not like the aggregate in the European Champions League, is it, where away goals mean more?
It is now. The old European Champions League where the away goals used to count. Yeah, so it's largely been done away with. I think that's to the benefit. We didn't want to see that tie decided by away goals, did we? We wanted extra time.
Yeah.
What a journey to the finals. I mean, Adelaide United, the scoreline, I think, does actually reflect how far Victory were ahead of them.
Yes,
and if anything, it's a good thing that Adelaide has that gap to go and chase. And then just Melbourne City, I'm relieved they've got the Champions League to play for, because this would burn them for the entire off-season.
It would.
Who is going to win this one? Kick-off at 3:15 p.m. on Sunday. 10 play, 10 bowl, Paramount Plus. Melbourne Victory at home to the Central Coast Mariners in the Ninja A-League Grand Final. Who's your tip, T?
Look, it's, you'd love to see the underdogs, the Mariners, come out on top. However, we've discussed so much in this episode, and set pieces are just such a big element in the women's game, and I just think the Victory at both ends are so strong, and I think it'll be a narrow win for the Victory.
The Mariners are going to be so disappointed if I tip them, because they have been out to prove me wrong all season. Central Coast, I think Melbourne Victory will be too strong and they will prevail in the grand final. But I'm calling the game, so don't worry, you will get a nice impartial call. You all heard how exciting it was at the end. We don't wear colours in the grand final. We just want the best possible game.
I'm sure Central Coast Mariners will be loving the underdog status going into this one. All right, still plenty more to come here, but plenty to come too on Total A-Leagues. What's happening?
Coming up on Total A-Leagues, we speak to Socceroos legend John Aloisi about his Western United side's huge semi-final against Melbourne City this weekend. We also preview the other massive semi-final between Melbourne Victory and Auckland FC. So much to look forward to, Tommy Orr. What impressed you the most from the weekend just gone?
I think you'd have to say Daniel Arzani's performance, obviously, against the Wanderers. What a game that was, and can't wait to watch him again this weekend.
Me too, bro. Me too. Make sure to catch Total A-Leagues every Wednesday on the A-Leagues YouTube channel, website and app.
Thank you, Tommy and Vince. I hope that both of you will be tuned in on Sunday afternoon to see who is crowned Ninja A-League Grand Final winners or championship winners in this one. So much to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. It's a great matchup already with both teams. They've got plenty of motivation to draw on from the historical meetings.
It's going to be a really incredible day. And one thing to keep in mind, the team that scores first has won every grand final bar one. And that was way back in the early days. So come from behind win, very rare. I hope we see something totally new. Grand finals also never been to penalties.
Oh.
So there's a few...
Not wishing that.
Comebacks, penalties. All of these things would be unprecedented if we do see them on grand final day.
Well, let's get early on the score sheet then, if you're Victory or your Central Coast, from the stats man himself. Looking forward to this one on Sunday. A big thank you to Pellizzeri, to Teresa Polias for all your analysis, and good luck for the call on the weekend. It will be a big one. Either way, heroes will be made or hearts will be broken. The Ninja A-League Grand Final between the Central Coast Mariners and Melbourne Victory, hosted by Amy Park on Sunday at 3:15. No matter where you are, make sure you tune in and watch that one. We'll be back for more Dubzone next week.